Hello, everybody. My name's Pete Liston, and welcome to the pod. And if anyone's listened to these pods before, there's a couple of things that I really love and I'm really passionate about. One of them is about meeting and talking with great people, and the second one is business. So today is a real hybrid where I'm going to bring some really interesting people into the conversation to talk about something that I've had some really specific challenges in business. So there's going to be some excellent takeaways for everyone here. So just as a bit of an intro, there's a couple of things in business that solve a lot of problems. So first of all, if we can create good revenue and we can create good lead flow, it puts us in a really strong position. But we know so many businesses out there struggle to generate the right leads, particularly in B2B businesses. And marketing has always been one of my challenges in business that I've really tried to develop. Now, it's a real dark art of how to understand how to really drive definitive value out of your marketing from the point where who you are and what you do it and how are the relationships that you create. So for me to really elevate my own performance as a business owner, I've had to rely on good people, get good advice. And on that note, I've got three very special people with me today. First of all, Peter Applebaum and Susan Werkner from the Agency Accelerators. G'day, Pete and Susan.
Hello. Hey, Pete, how you going?
Fantastic. And last but very not least, Ben Shipley, who's our Chief Growth Officer at Trust the Process. G'day, Ben.
Hey, g'day, Pete.
Perfect. So I'm going to throw over to Peter and Susan first. Can you just do a quick introduction of yourselves and tell us about Agency Accelerators?
Well, Susan and I have started Agency Accelerators just under 4 years ago, just before the pandemic. Great timing, eh? We've been long-term marketing agency owners, and we decided just before the pandemic we wanted to have a little bit of we just spotted a gap in the market where a lot of marketing agencies, fellow marketing agencies, and broadly speaking service businesses, exactly what you just said, Pete, they struggle with business development, with marketing in particular, but having that regular lead flow. And we've started Agency Accelerators to answer that need.
Because it's such a powerful thing here. What one corporate client, that one great relationship can make all of the difference here. And this is really what you guys are about, yeah?
Correct.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, look, basically, Peter and I are agency owners already. So we built our own agencies over the last, 20 years for Peter, 17 years for myself, separate agencies. And we always work with corporate clients. We worked on the corporate client side when we started out as marketers after university. And then we eventually ended up, I guess, both of us separately starting our own agency. So for us, we realized after building our own agency that we have a lot to share with other service businesses and agencies, because one of the key, I guess, pain points, as you said quite rightly, Pete, for many agencies is marketing. Marketing is both, we always say it's an art and a science. So if you have to have marketing, which everyone does, we always say the accountants are great, but you need something to count. And who makes that? The marketing people. They're the ones that are helping you market your product. Until then, the CFO is twiddling their thumbs. So it really is a really vital part of any service business is the marketing part.
A friend of mine runs an engineering business. He's electrical engineer, and he's a very smart guy. And he used to, in a fun way, used to be quite just give me jibes. Oh, you marketing types, you're just fluffy marketing types. Guess what happens when business goes a bit quiet?
That's it.
Peter, I need some advice. I need some help. We need some marketing.
Oh, mate. And I guess it was my real look. I knew enough about marketing to be dangerous, but really not enough to be competent in any way. And that's why Ben joined our team, coming up to sort of more 18 months ago now. Ben, give us a quick intro about you and what you do and where you've come from.
Well, look, I come from a very specific career in sales. I've spent a long time as a salesperson myself, and then a long time managing and building sales teams. And over the years, actually kind of grew into being more involved in marketing, more involved in lead generation and brand and all of those other bits and pieces. But ultimately from a sales background, and came out of business coaching, out of higher education, out of finance, out of events and sponsorship and all those sorts of things. And obviously joined Trust the Process, as you say, 18 months ago to help really drive the growth of this business, right? Which, we're here talking about marketing, but I mean, ultimately, exactly as Susan and Peter talked about, like all business growth is sales and marketing led.
Mm.
The problem the problem a lot of businesses face is actually in the resourcing of those things, right? Marketing's so complex. There's so many different skills. Sales, it's just really hard to find people that want to work really hard and do the right thing and help the customers, all that sort of stuff. So, so many businesses go through this cycle where they try and hire people. They try and hire a marketing manager, and they think, I'm going to hire a competent marketing manager because that's going to solve all of my marketing problems. And ultimately, they go through this cycle, right? This cycle of very expensive trial and error as they slowly kind of build up what works and what doesn't, and make a bit of an engine that's kind of starting to work. And they go through a few people, and it's just like, it's incredibly inefficient, it's incredibly expensive, and it's incredibly frustrating. And so many business owners just bail out of it. And so, when I joined Trust the Process, for me, I'm somebody who'd used offshore teams for years. I've hired people in 30 odd countries, and always found it really helpful to be able to mix, different costs of resources. But it's a thing that's not that easy to do, especially if you're trying to make stuff up as you go along. And so, obviously love talking with Susan and Peter because you guys know how to make it work. We know how to outsource the resources in order to be able to then deliver it, put those two things together, and you get growth that a founder or, key executives within a business don't actually have to personally do themselves.
And I actually think it's worth mentioning that we're not just talking about this sort of stuff. We're putting our money where our mouth is. We've been working, just how we first came into the orbit of Trust the Process through meeting Pete at a entrepreneurs club 3 years ago, Pete.
Yeah, it'd be about that.
And we was impressed by the cut of his jib and what his I guess you're obviously a good marketer. You're a good marketer, Pete, because obviously you got through to me, and it's like we've been working with outsourcing Trust the Process, using Trust the Process to outsource a lot of our sales and marketing needs ever since, and many of our clients are doing the same very successfully. So we're not just talking about this; we're actually putting our money where our mouth is, and it works.
Love it. Hey, I'm going to start unpacking a little bit of some marketing insights. But before we do that, you two used to host a TV show on Sky News. Is that right?
Yes,
tell us about TV. Well, what's it like being on TV?
Very busy. Before the part of being on TV was easy. The easy part, it was getting ready for it. That was the hardest.
I actually said the 23 minutes we were live to wear was the easiest part of the whole week because all the work had been done. Was
it live and unscripted?
No, it's scripted.
We wrote the scripts ourselves. Yeah. We basically approached Sky News about 18. We actually had been approaching them, talking about persistence and sales. I've been on A Current Affair for 18 odd years, doing a lot of on a regular basis, doing a lot of their marketing.
You're their marketing specialist.
Marketing specialist and go-to.
Anything to do with Barbie dolls. That was the latest one.
Yes, you want to know about Barbie dolls? It's talking about my private activities when I was younger, Susan. It's just it's not right.
We're among friends.
We are among friends. But so I'd always thought that the big miss, because we've got 2.5 million Australian businesses, the vast 98% of them are small to medium enterprises, as you know, if not more, quite frankly. And exactly what you said in your intro, Pete, there's so many of them are not clueless. They're obviously smart business people in their area, but sales and marketing is a bit of a dark art and an area where there's a lot of pain. They want the continuity of leads, the continuity of to make sure that the business grows in a way they should. So I always felt that there's a gap in the market. There should be a TV show specifically for small businesses to help them with their marketing. And over several station managers, we eventually found one and said, okay, well, if you can find some money, we'll put the show to air. And we did. And Susan and I went out there with just an idea and our plan and our goal. And we brought in several corporate sponsors like Qantas, American Express, Census, which is called Yellow now, Yellow Pages.
9 Rewards.
And Optus was the other one.
Optus, yeah.
And we went to air, and it was fantastic. It was a huge amount of work, huge amount of work. Make the old story. It makes it. We work so hard to make it look so easy. The opportunity and the challenge was the Sky said, okay, there you go. You got a half an hour every Thursday night at 7:30. Over to you. Wasn't that bad. They gave us a producer.
We had a producer for all the shows and things. So it was great. But it was a 9 months of it. It was very, and plus you were doing a radio show at the same time on Macquarie Radio. So that was every Tuesday night we had the radio show, and Thursday night we had Market Matters TV every night. So, and we were running our 2 businesses during the day. So we were rather busy that year. And it went for like the Market Matters TV. I must say we're very proud of it. It was actually the most profitable Sky News business program they'd ever had. So that was because all those sponsors spent millions of advertising across Sky News channels, obviously, during our program. So worked really well and highlighted the small business people that, definitely needed, highlighting with all those sponsors. So
I guess the segue...
Sales and marketing, right. So I guess for us, that also proved to us that's one of the areas that we really understand is how to put a sales and marketing program, even if you just have a German, a small idea, but if you've got already have a running business, how do you then utilize that, the strengths of that business, understand what differentiates that idea or that business, and then really get others involved and be able to market that and build revenue for that business. So I think that's something that was a good learning point as
exactly.
well.
And the point being, it went from it's not just about having a Facebook page or an Instagram feed or X or anything like that. It's about how do you generate revenue from your activities. I think a lot of businesses think marketing is social media, doing a blog or doing a Facebook page or Instagram, that sort of stuff. And that helps. That's part of it. There's no doubt about that. But it's like, how do you get from where you are to where you want to be from a revenue goal perspective? That's really what that's the key metric from a marketing point of view. There are many others, of course, but obviously as business people, we want to grow our business, and that's what we're talking about.
Got it. Well, we love what you do, and that's why, at Trusted Process, we've come up with a bit of a program, working with Agency Accelerators. Over to you, Ben.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's part of the reason why we're here. We've wanted to have you guys on the podcast for ages, but we've been talking for the longest time about how we solve this problem of being able to bring, outsourcing and good strategy and process and in marketing together. And so I suppose this is kind of the announcement, right? Like, we've actually formalized a partnership. We are going to be working together where the Agency Accelerators will be helping our B2B clients to build out their lead generation programs, the processes, the scripts, all of the supporting elements, so that we can then go and implement those things and, hire and use outsourcing in order to be able to deliver them. This particular partnership is going to be kicked off in a couple of weeks with an event. All the details of that are going to be in the show notes. Anybody for the podcast, go and have a look in the show notes. Anybody watching this on YouTube, check the comment section below. You'll find a link. If you click on that link, it'll take you to a registration page with all of the details of the event. But we can talk about that a little bit towards the end as well.
Well, what I want to do is, because we've got Pete and Susie in here, I just want to really use this time to, unpick a bit of their knowledge. And, for me, again, for so many businesses out there, quality lead generation is a real challenge. We go through these waves. It's like a sawtooth, we get heaps of leads and then they dry up, and they get heaps of leads and they dry up, or we're totally relying on things that are just word of mouth. But, this is really limiting for the business in terms of how we can really drive, scalable growth. Just throw to Pete and Susan, how do you guys create a robust lead generation system, and what does that look like?
Well, I think the key that we've learned, both from our own experiences over the last 20 years and also working with our clients now over the last 4 years now, the key that most small businesses miss is that you need really a robust understanding of what is your business, what makes you different, what makes you unique, who are your best prospects, who are going to resonate with the problem you're trying to solve. So that's the key. What problem are you trying to solve? So like with Trust the Process, you've got a very clear problem you're solving. People need, outsourced personnel that they can slot into various roles, whether it be admin or marketing or sales. So that's a great problem. But a lot of smaller, SMEs don't really think about what is the problem we're solving and who will we be best fits with. So that's really the number one step in terms of a process. And from there, that's where you then build that sales and marketing strategy across different platforms, and across the type of positioning and messaging and you need to really resonate with the type of clients you want to work with and customers you want to attract to get revenue.
So when we start a business, we're just doing things, and sometimes we've got to, maybe we're operators and we're used to doing this job for someone else. So we say, like, let's go do it in our own business, but there's no real why we're doing it. And I come back to your point about solving the problem. There's how much analysis do you think business owners do this before they go into business, before they just start doing things and then come back to marketing later?
I think it's very tempting to just do stuff, because it's like, that's what we say. It's you can do social media, you can do a blog post, you can build a website, you can be very busy being busy. And I think the other side of the coin is it's paralysis by analysis. We've all met people who are talking about, oh, we've got to start a business. I'm doing market research and I'm just trying to find out what my niche is. And then 5 years goes by and they're still thinking about it. I actually had an interesting discussion with my expression was perfectionists make lousy entrepreneurs. And this lady who I mentioned that to, she said, oh, no, I completely disagree with that. My husband is an entrepreneur. He's a very successful, is a perfectionist. He's a very successful entrepreneur. And it's like, good luck. It's not in my experience, because you're going into the great void. You're doing something, no matter whether, even if you're going into an area where there is a lot of competition, there's not you as a competitor. You don't exist there. So it's like you're going, it really is a leap of faith. So as much analysis as you do, you just have to say, let's just do it. Let's just do it. We'll learn along the way. We'll invariably make mistakes along the way. And that's the beauty of sales and marketing. I always joke that sales and marketing is like 1 + 1 = a butterfly. Whereas a lot of people, so if you're a very linear thinker, and there are some obviously very successful accountants and architects, people who have to be linear thinkers in their particular goal. But when you're talking about the market, there's so many things you can't know and won't know until you actually jump in.
Yeah. So you just remind me that 1 + 1 = a butterfly. My little one told me yesterday 1 + 1 = a window. But maybe that is a butterfly that shape.
A future entrepreneur.
That's it.
Yeah, I love it. But I'll tell you what, like in terms of the perfection bit, like absolutely, it's as I look around here, my absolutely not spotless office, like this is a thin veneer of tidiness behind us. But no, look at that. That's really insightful. Now I want to go over to Ben, right? Because one of the things, as we're growing businesses and driving them. One of the ultimate challenges is always time. Now, there's one of my mantras is that in business, there's only 2 things you should ever do, right? You do the things that you love because you're the boss, you get to choose what you do, and you should do what only you should do. And everything else, we've got to create this mindset of, delegate to elevate. It is a little bit of a selfish thought, in terms of how you value your time. Now, Ben, how do you spin this kind of thinking into what you do every day?
I think it's super important thinking. And it's super important because one of the real keys of business growth is ultimately resource allocation, right? Correctly allocating the right cost of resource and the right value of resource to the right activities. And, if you are a founder, if you are a sales director, a marketing director, a CEO, any of these highly paid senior roles in any businesses, you ultimately have to be very careful about how you spend your time. If you are a sales director and you're spending the majority of your time, let's say, making outbound cold calls, you can probably do that with a far cheaper resource, a far more appropriate resource. Should a sales director still make some outbound phone calls? Yes, they absolutely should, because you should be willing to do the things that you're asking your team to do. You should know how they work. But for me, there's going to be things that are in your role, that are in your business, that are appropriate for you to be doing. If I'm a founder and I'm doing anything that I wouldn't pay somebody at least $80 an hour to do, I probably shouldn't be doing it myself. Granted, brand new startups, that's not the case. There's just you, so you do everything. But as you move along, But there's also stuff that because you are good at it and because you like it, actually the value of the work that you do significantly increases. If you really enjoy doing podcasts, for example, you're going to make probably quite good podcasts. If you really enjoy going out and meeting clients face to face and having, being involved in sales calls or being involved in research calls, whatever the thing is that really sets you on fire, ultimately you're going to add the most value to because you're going to do the best job of it. You're going to put the most amount of passion into it. And so being able to mix between those things, what absolutely essentially has to happen today, who can do it, what's the right value and right cost of resource I can apply to that thing that needs to happen, but then also who is the best person to do it that's going to most likely do the best job because they actually enjoy it. I've got people in my team who actually quite like doing the detail stuff, working in spreadsheets, building out process plans and process documentations and things like that. Not me.
And they're welcome to it.
Yes,
they can have that one.
But there are people who enjoy almost every type of work, right? And so whoever enjoys it is probably the best person to do it most of the time because they'll place the most attention on it and give it the greatest get the greatest output. So I suppose that's my version of it. Like, there are going to be things that you're really good at and you really love and you should try and do those things. But the flip side of that is there are also sometimes just things where shit's just got to get done and somebody's got to do it. And if nobody does it, then there's a problem.
I think we call that the Superman complex. Like business owners think that they can do everything and only they can do everything.
Yeah. Delegation is really important. I think the other thing we found with a lot of businesses, a lot of them are craftspeople. Like, they actually, like, if they're engineers or accountants or marketing or advertising, design people, they, IT, SEO specialists, if they build an agency around their own skill set, we find it's usually harder for them to let go, to actually sort of work, as we often say, on the business rather than in the business, because they're so used to doing their own craft. So I think that's something that I think is, often is a bit of a mind shift, I think, to think about your business, that you actually have, all of us have only 24 hours a day. I mean, that's a given. You can't change that 24 hours. So what you do with that 24 hours is so important. So one of the things we often have clients do is say, sit down for 1 week, write down everything you do in that 5-day period, in that 24 hours. What are you actually doing? Which of those? And then at the end of the week, tally up how much of that activity is on things that actually drive the business forward and that you enjoy doing, or those things actually don't drive the business forward and you don't enjoy doing. They're the ones you want to then carve out and give to someone else to do. That's a great little tip I would suggest to any business person to do for themselves in a 5-day period. And they'd be surprised. You'd be surprised how much time you sometimes waste on things that you probably shouldn't be doing, and you could be much more productive doing something else.
100%. A good colleague of mine used to always say to me, Beyonce's only got 24 hours a day too. What does she do with hers? Which I always thought was really funny. But you're absolutely right. Like, and this is what we help people with every single day, is what is the stuff that they should delegate? How do we decide between the things that I uniquely should do in my business versus stuff that I should delegate out? The things that you're great at and add the highest amount of value are the things where you should be spending your time. If you're sitting around, I know this is something you've said to me many times, Pete Liston. If you're sitting around your kitchen table at 8 o'clock at night doing your books, you should probably hire a VA to do your books, right? And the same can be said if you're sitting there at 8 o'clock at night, or you're still in the office and it's late, and you're sending out, you're just scheduling your emails to your database. It's 100% something that you could have somebody else doing it at a far lower cost, and probably, let's be honest, far more consistently, because there's a resource applied to the task.
Well, there's one simple reason why people don't delegate, and that's because they don't feel like they're in control. And there's two real simple ways that we get control in any business. So number one, we could have consistency, and consistency is process or systems. Consistency means how do we capture excellence and repeat? The other part of it is visibility. So when you don't have consistency and things are all over the shop and you don't have visibility and you don't know what's going on, then you don't feel like you're in control. That's why you don't let go. So I'm gonna take that little segue into that point. And for Pete and Susan, I find that, for me, I'm on the quest for the perfect process. I'm absolutely not a perfectionist, but I love my processes to be good, because the processes is how I get things done my way without me doing them. But when you come in and sort of want to unpack a new client, how do you really give them confidence in what they're looking for in their marketing process to really deliver results? Because there's so many charlatans out there that, hey, just run some ads or do this. But what do you do to give people confidence in your approach to marketing?
Well, I guess we take a very holistic view of the business. I think number one, we have been around for a little while, so we are experienced. I think that makes a big difference. If you're experienced and you're actually, a small business owner, talk to other small business owners, other SMEs, you've walked in their shoes, the type of potholes they're going to fall into. We try and help our clients not fall into those potholes that we already have. There might be new ones we'll fall into, but at least not the ones we've already fallen into going forward. So I think the key, though, is really we look at 3 areas: people, processes, and technology. I mean, that's really what a business is about. Those are the 3 points, 3 systems that need to operate smoothly to have a business that grows. So for us, looking at both, who are the people who are in the business? What are their skill sets? What processes do you have in place? As you said, that's very important. And I think looking for the best process, and that can be different for different companies, obviously. Yeah. What's the best process for you? Where are the roadblocks in your process? Where are manual tasks being done that maybe could be done better? And then looking at your technology, what's your tech stack? Nowadays, I think there's how many, I think you just saw a chart. There was something like.
Yeah, we actually gave a presentation on automation at Advertising Week last August, and we found that there are just under 58,000 AI platforms in the world. And if we talk again in another 6 months, it'll probably be another 58,000.
Sounds like they're breeding.
What was that?
Sounds like the platforms are breeding themselves. So we already hit it,
So I guess, so for that point, exactly, they are breeding. So I guess
rabbit.ai.
Yes, exactly. So what we do is we actually provide suggestions at which is the best tech stack for the business. So in other words, less is more with technology as well. You don't want to have too many pieces of technology because it becomes confusing, but you need the right pieces of technology to help you. And that helps very much with, as we said before, is process. And then you overlay that with your sales and marketing strategy. That's business in a box.
Yeah. I think when we're looking at the power of B2B relationships, and we got a bid in for a job at the moment, like one job, we get that one job, we basically grow our business by 120%. Wow. So we've been working pretty fastidiously and growing, but one right contact, the one right job could in an instant change everything for us and really change our direction and change our whole pathway. For me though, marketing is about taking people from unaware to being aware of us. Yeah. When I'm looking for a great corporate client, how do I make that first shift from unaware to aware, so then I can start this gentle progression of engagement, curiosity, discovery, interest? How do we make that first step?
Well, we're big believers in an omni-channel approach. In other words, it's not just one thing, because you just never know. Like we've picked up clients who we've sat next to at conferences, and they've become corporate clients who we've sat next to and started chatting, and we didn't know them, they didn't know us, and 2 months later they're a transformative piece of business. It could be an email. We've had one client of ours who started as a result of working with us, sent out an email. Who knew email works? And as a result, they sent it to they only had a small database. They sent it to one corporate client, and as a result, the client was impressed, put them on a pitch list, and that they won the pitch, and it was a transformative piece of business. So you never know. It could be that social media post. It could be a link. This is why we're saying have as many quality touch points as you can and put it out into the market, because you never know who is consuming what. Now, I know that can be overwhelming, but I think if you focus on delivering value and syndicating. And I know that's probably part of one of the separate conversations you've been having, Ben, when it comes to content as a service, which we love. We love that strategy. You record once and you syndicate it. You can turn it into a video, turn it into a meme, turn it into a blog post. That's the point. Not everyone watches videos, but they read blog posts. Not everyone reads blog posts, but they go on LinkedIn. That's the point. It's just have as much quality content out there, thought leadership content out there, and that's how you do it. It could be a phone call. We're big believers in the value of calling, warm calling and cold calling. And another great resource we're still finding to this day is people we haven't worked with for some years. Call them back. And as a result of that, where you can pick up business that you wouldn't know about. And I think that's a very important thing.
Well, all of those multi-channel approaches, like I guess there's one of the first lessons that I learned getting into business was like, we just try one thing and we get fixated or blinkered it. We just go over and over and again until it either did or didn't work. And then we'd switch into the next focus, like, hey, let's run some ads. Let's get you need to get Facebook ads out there. So let's pump some money into that. But I'm going to go to Ben on this one. There's some really simple tools out there. There's only so many hours of the day you can be on the phone and do all of these things. But going back to Susan's point as well, automation is driving leverage. Using the technology tools that we've got out there, we can take that multi-channel approach and not only do many things at one time, but get the attribution and the data to ultimately see, is this working or not? So we can either do more of it or less of it. Just your thoughts on, Ben, and how do we digitize this?
Yeah, we've become an increasingly data-driven world. I know we talk a lot at Trust the Process that we very much want to be able to enable our customers' businesses through data, through automation, through technology, through reporting. But actually, if anything, we kind of prefer just talking with humans and doing business with people. And talking about being a little bit old school in that way, but obviously trying to, making sure that we stay at the forefront and use those things. And data and insight are super important, and what we look at really matters. I think probably one of the most important things when it comes to really understanding what's happening in our revenue generation engines is very much being aware, being very critical of the things that we're doing, and being aware that the things that work aren't always the things that we can see, and the things that we can see aren't always the things that are working. And I think there's some really good examples of this out there. Peter, you mentioned before about like a winning business, you're sitting next to a person at an event, right? And the business that only relies on digital attribution and tracking would see that person potentially come into the business as offline sources, or might come into the business as organic search because they met you, they lost your card, or they got your card and they went and typed your website in, and you get a lead that comes in that's direct traffic, right? Or they typed it into Google, and all of those things ultimately mean that you go and spend a whole bunch of money with an SEO agency instead of spending more time at events, right?
Yeah.
And so I think for a lot of those things, we have to be very honest with ourselves about what's working and what's not. But we also have to be very clear about where we have volume. Like, have we actually done enough of this to be any good at it to figure out whether it can work? And ultimately for us, systemization, automation, all of these things, it's not always that a technology has to do it, but we have to work backwards, right? We talk here all the time about purpose, process, platforms, people. We have a slightly different one to you and Susan and Peter. But you kind of have to work in that order, right? What's the process? Can you run it through a platform and automate it? And everything that you can't automate and run through a platform, you've got to apply people to it. And so really taking that approach of, do we have a good process in place? Have we run enough data through it? Have we had enough shots on goal to figure out whether this thing works? And then at the end of that process, we need to be able to apply a person that can then go and deliver on that process and repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. Automation is not, to me, automation is not just a piece of technology doing the work. An automated process is a process that I don't have to do. right?
Yeah.
To a degree, you probably want to have as much of it done through tech as possible. But if you've got a huge portion of it done through tech and then a person at the end of it working and delivering all the pieces that the technology can't quite sew together, you still end up with an automated process because you now don't have to do it.
Human automation, you might even say.
Yeah.
But
But
what I love
it's
is
when
that
we start at that end, when we throw people at the problem
Yeah.
without having really thought about the strategy or the process that needs to be delivered. When we just throw a person at the problem, that's when we end up in the situation where we're just like, oh, outsourcing doesn't work. Well, the person that you gave the job to was given absolutely no guidance or understanding of what might actually work, and it didn't work out. It's not really surprising.
Well, that's why we like working with you, and we're impressed by the process that Pete went through with us when we first started, or before we first started, which is that process-driven approach that you took. And obviously you have competitors, we all do, but no one else spoke about that. No one else took us through that journey. And I think being able to I guess, paint the picture and give people confidence that what they're about to do, and many people, and we speak to many people like that every day who've never used outsourcing, are nervous about it. How do I start? What do I do? If there is a process in place, be it via technology or via a human being takes them through it, it gives them that much more confidence to move forward and know that I'm going to achieve my objectives this way. And that's really where it starts and finishes.
Well, for me, it's all about going back to my statement before, capturing excellence and repeating it, because as we go through this business journey, we're trying stuff all the time. And then we land on something like, oh, that actually worked, that actually resonates. So let's do that over and over again until we learn again. You know, we split test and we can take different options about how we experiment. But if you're on a good thing and you've got a clear defined avatar and you know who you are, then just keep doing it. I just want to come back to just sharing some of my experiences with marketing and getting your thoughts, Pete and Susan, on relationships. Now, sometimes I feel that single channel marketing strategies, for example, I'm going to come back to ads now. Ads work great. And for some businesses, ads are amazing and they just absolutely nail it. But it's a little bit perplexing when you just engage an agency that says, hey, look, just throw 10 grand a month, this stuff, and we'll take 2 grand of that as a management fee, and let's just see what happens. Now, after 3 or 4 months go by, there's this classic statement, or, we're waiting for the algorithms to settle a little bit, or they're sending you their monthly reports that, they're writing themselves, which is like my 10-year-old writing his own school report. But sometimes these single channel focus really feels like having like an electric heater in a cold cabin. It's fine when the heater's on, but as soon as you turn it off and open the door, there's nothing of substance in the room. For me, crafting relationships, and our vision is all about ensuring business remains a fundamentally human experience, like empowered by digitization, but forging relationships and maintaining this human experience, for me, is like a log fire in that same cabin. Yeah. Right? You open the door, yes, the cold air comes in, but you close the door and there's substance left in the room. So in your marketing theory and strategies, how are you using relationships and this development of this human experience as part of what you do?
Well, I actually think that's a great analogy.
Yeah, it is.
Pete. Very, very nice analogy. I like that. During winter, we needed that warmth, didn't we?
Yeah.
George, you can have it.
Yeah. So I think the main thing is exactly as you said. I think there's a lot to be said for automation, a lot to be said for digitization. But business is a human interaction. We are social creatures, and business is no different. I mean, when you go to a corporate client, you need to develop a human relationship with that corporate client. They're not just a digital input on your dashboard that says such and such visitor, such and such click on an email. There's a human being behind there with thoughts, emotions, feelings, and they need to feel that there's transparency, there's trust, there's some relatability with the person they're talking to. So I think the key here is certainly this type of strategies that we have put together, Peter and I, for our clients. It's basically relationship building at scale. That's what we like to say, because I think you can't do that, as you said, through the if you're just doing, SEO ads, you're not going to get the corporate clients if that's what you're looking for. It's not a B2B strategy, does not provide you with the type of clients you want if you're doing Google AdWords. Let's put it that way. Maybe if you're a local tradesperson and someone's in a suburb, Bondi, and they really need an electrician all of a sudden, yes, I'll go in and type for electricians in the local area and need one. So you have to look at both search intent, if you are going to do any online advertising, and have a look, as you said earlier, Pete, who's your avatar? Who is your avatar? You've got to understand who's the client you want to go after. What did they read? What did they see? What did they fear? What do they love? I think the more you can understand your clients and your customers, the easier you can wrap a sales and marketing program around that avatar and know that your message is going to resonate. That's really probably one of the most important things. And that's how you get the human connection, because you know what emotionals, not in a way strings to pull, but how emotion will also interact with that rational decision they're going to make. As we all say, people decide emotionally and then justify rationally.
With data, yeah.
So we all do that emotionally, and that's relationships.
And the other point is, if you're talking about corporate clients, the chief marketing officer of Westpac who's looking for an agency, for example, or an IT support company, they're not going to click on a Google ad, because they don't need to.
No.
They're being hit on all day, every day by potential suppliers. They've had experience, and they've probably worked with agencies or supply partners, service businesses in the past. So they've got a black book of organizations they've worked with, people they've worked with. So I think you need to cut the suit to match the cloth. And if you're looking for corporate clients, for larger clients, it very much is a relationship play. You need to, and getting the foot in the door is always the challenge, but it's like there's definitely ways to do it. And Susan and I started some years ago when we didn't have the advantages that a lot of business owners have now, with so many different platforms. You now can find out people's mobile numbers pretty quickly. You can really find out information you weren't able to find out 5 or 10 years ago. So it's actually the golden age for service businesses, for entrepreneurs, particularly B2B entrepreneurs, going out there and growing their business with tools they've never had before. But they have to have the process combined with technology. Those sorts of things combined, and those building human relationships, that's what's going to get you the results.
I think you guys are so great at the way you approach with your customers to help them to do those things. I think that actually the partnership that we're doing together is a really great example of caring about and understanding your customers, right? We come together and we have these conversations about what are people struggling with. We've got so many people coming to us on a monthly basis wanting help with marketing. And I think one of the really fundamental human elements of doing business with people and making great relationships is being honest with them, right? The reason we ended up in this partnership is because people were coming to us going, I need a marketing person. And we would say, what do you need them to do? And they would say, I don't know, I'm hoping they'll tell me that, right? And we would try and work with people, and ultimately the person that they would hire offshore would have a really difficult time. They'd really struggle.
It wouldn't work.
Because it wouldn't work in so many cases. And so we had all these conversations of was like, what are we supposed to tell people? They're coming to us for help. Well, in this case, what do they need in order to make this work? And is it a thing that we should deliver, or is it a thing that a partner that we know is an expert in that area should deliver? And should we then connect those two things together so that we can pass people over, make sure that they have an understanding of what they should do, and then hire a person? And I think that for me is like so fundamental in business relationships, is being willing. There's two parts to it. It's being willing to tell the truth to your customers and say, I can't help you with that yet. Right. And I actually think a lot more businesses do that than we would genuinely recognize. I think a lot of businesses do actually say, this is not for me, I can't help. Actually, some of them probably even say that when it's not true. But what a lot of businesses don't do is then think to themselves, who can do it? Who do I know that can do it really well? And help those customers by sending them through. They go and they learn what they need to learn, put in place what they need to put in place. Then obviously they're going to come back and end up wanting to work with you anyway.
Yeah, I just wish I had learned these lessons years ago when I first went back into business, to be honest. And and you're absolutely right, Ben, because one thing's that there's a massive difference here between doing things and doing the right things. And I guess in my own experience, the first thing that I was in business when I started learning, about this, marketing magic, I just do stuff. But it's the cart and the horse kind of thing, there's doing the right thing and understanding your strategy and why and leaning on people that have, walked in, that are experts in this space versus just, hey, I'm just going to try stuff. And it's not so much the money that's burned, even though that's important by trying and not winning because you are learning. But for me, it's the opportunity cost. Like I've left millions and millions of dollars on the table through bumbling around trying to do it my way rather than leaning on people for guidance and investing in the right spot. So, hey, look, I've really enjoyed this chat. And for me, again, the whole purpose of this pod is I just love to learn about business. And I love to talk to people. When there's that old analogy, never be the smartest person in the room. Well, I've ticked that box today with everybody that we've got here. So now that's an easy one. Hey, Ben, I'd just like to throw to you for some final words and then and to share, what we're doing with Pete and Susan and how people can get involved.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Pete. So, I mean, look, if you're a business-to-business organization, if you sell to business customers and you want to go from having to scrape through the card deck for the last run of referrals that you might be able to ask for, you want to go from that to really having a nice, an automated, consistent, trusted lead generation engine, and you want to be able to do that where at the end of that process, you can also delegate that process to somebody that is a cost-effective resource. If that's what you're looking to do, you should come and join us at our event. We are running an event on the 26th of September. If you are in the US, 26th of September, 5 p.m. PDT for our North American friends. 27th of September, 10 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time for our Australian time zone friends. Of course, if you are in neither of those time zones, you can come anyway, but you'll have to figure out what time it is for yourself. If you're listening to the podcast, jump into the show notes. There will be a link to the registration page. If you're on YouTube, jump into the comments below. The link will be there also. When you click on that link, it will take you to a registration page. It'll have all of the details of exactly what we're going to cover. But ultimately, the point of the event is to be able to create an automated B2B lead generation engine, right? This is what we're here to do. This is what we're here to do together. This is what we want to be able to give to everybody. So click on that link and jump in, register. And as soon as you've registered, you'll get a confirmation and obviously all of the details to be able to attend. And so, hoping to see everybody there.
Hey, look, while we're at it, if you're my regular listener and you're in Benin or Nigeria in Central Africa, get in touch. I don't know why you even listen to this show, but you get it all the time. So for some reason, someone in Central Africa is is engaged. So I love it. Pete and Susan, over to you for a final word on Agency Accelerators. What's next in the chapter for you, and what are you guys doing?
Well, thank you so much, Pete and Ben, for having us. And I guess for us, look, like you guys, we just love what we do. We love helping those B2B businesses grow. That's really what keeps us happy every single day, coming into work and trying to do the best we can with our clients. And that's it. And I guess we're helping. We also help US companies as well as Australian. We've got clients around the world. So that's one of the key things we're doing, growing a bit more in terms of US clients, but we have quite a few in other countries. Japan was the one of the countries we actually visited a few months ago with a client there. But we'd love to have you all on the webinar that's coming up, and we're really happy with the partnership with you guys. It's been wonderful.
And the webinar is actually an example. We've done many, many webinars over the last 3 years or so. We're big fans of webinars, big fans of content marketing overall. As goes back to what we were saying before, it's quality touch points. It's all about adding value consistently. And that was a word you used early on, Peter. Consistency is such an important thing. You just give me a good plan that's consistently implemented. That's going to get you the results. And I think that's what it's all about. And that's why we keep having wonderful, we love doing webinars, and we're very excited for this one coming up with you guys.
Perfect. Well, get into the show notes. All the links and that'll be there, and jump in and register. And to my for the people out there in Central Africa, stay tuned. Looking forward to it. I love it. My name's Pete Liston. Thanks for joining us on the pod. Really appreciate Ben, Susan, and Peter for joining me today. Out.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.